Welcome once again here on the Regional Radio Sports Network. My name is Paul Condry. I'm the president and founder of Regional Radio Sports. Glad to be joined here today with Scott Cooper, men's basketball coach and interim athletic director here at Indiana University. It's Media Day. We're going to be visiting today with some of Coop's guys today as well as himself and kind of just talk about Titans basketball as we preview the 23-24 campaign. Coop, you're number 11. My immediate question goes right back to you. Remember when you started? I remember distinctly because your hair was jet black. There was no gray. Didn't have any kids, so life has been transformed over the last 11 years. But you're loving life, right?
Yeah, you can do worse in life than I'm doing right now, that's for sure. So, yeah, no, it's been a good experience. I'm happy to be here and looking forward to the next one.
Are you find yourself in a little bit of a struggle trying to maintain some of the interim athletic director's responsibilities as well as becoming the basketball coach? Can you relate to some of the difficulties and challenges that Steve Bruce had over these many, many years?
Yes and no. I think the one thing I benefit from is having him here. So, I've got a lot of institutional knowledge 2 doors down there that I can just go and ask him questions, and it makes my transition a lot easier. I think, him having to build the department and figure out what that was, was a far greater challenge than I've had to go through and all that stuff. So, I'm taking over at a time that we're in a very stable place. So I think in a lot of ways he had it much more difficult than I'd have coming in. Now, there's still a lot of things I got to figure out and, how to manage time and things like that. But again, having a resource like him 2 doors down has made my life 100 times easier than I'm sure what he went through.
I think it's always important when you go into a new season to reflect back on what you just went through as a group. You look back last year, 23 wins, 9 losses, 15-5, and a competitive Chicagoland Collegiate Athletic Conference. You guys are really good here at home, going 11-4. Good on the road, 11-4. So there's a lot of things to look back on as positive. The only negative aspect is you lost a talented group of seniors who really kind of part of a group. I go back to when Alan was here, and I'm thinking to myself, this was really the group that transformed Indiana University South Bend men's basketball and put it from point A to a whole nother ceiling. Can you speak to the leadership of the boys that you're having to replace?
Yeah, I think the big thing is, anytime you lose that much continuity, which we haven't for a while, we've been very fortunate that every year we've lost 1 or 2 guys, and so we haven't had nearly as much to replace as we do right now, that, your culture kind of sustains itself.
Sure.
And certainly we still have enough back to do that, and we have. I think the guys we have returning have done a great job of making sure they understand, and our new guys understand what the standard is here. But at the same time, like you talked about, those guys were here from the beginning of really what ended up being about a 2-year rebuild, and they were a big part of that early on as freshmen. Guys like Daniel Meredith and Kenny Washington, who were both all conference guys
Sure.
and 1,000-point scorers and everything else. And Miles Tracy, who started right from the get-go as a freshman, and I think set our school record for career games played, started, et cetera, et cetera. You don't just replace that with one recruiting class, and so it's a challenge, and we're going to miss those guys certainly, but we're pretty fortunate to be in a place where we are able to build quickly here, and we're excited about the guys we've got.
And the other aspect of that would be that recruiting, because there was a situation where, and just because of the way the classes kind of fall, where hey, listen, I got to get 5 new guys in here because we're going to be losing so-and-so. But with the COVID years, some of those guys had extra time. So when you look at your 5-year or 7-year plan, and I know that you don't think about it in that fashion like someone who's in charge of a particular corporation, but you have to be able to have a big vision but also a narrow vision simultaneously. So can you speak to how things were going into this coming year in regards to recruiting, because you knew you were going to have to lose some, whereas a couple years ago maybe you only brought in 1 or 2 guys?
Yeah, and I think that's been the biggest challenge is the one thing that happened. We guys, Kenny Washington and Spencer Pettit, who had graduated, the prior year, and we were planning on them moving on because of the opportunities that they had in their life. And then at the last second, they both decided to come back. So rather than recruiting guys in behind them and only replacing 2 guys, they come back for an extra year, which they're both great kids, great players, and we're very fortunate to have them back. But at the same time, it made recruiting a little bit difficult in that now instead of losing 2 guys, this past year we lost 4 because they lumped them all into one class. So instead of bringing in 4 or 5, and it's like you would in a standard recruiting class, we had to bring in 8. And it's a wonderful problem to have.
Sure.
I'd certainly take it again and wouldn't change a thing. We had a very special year despite a lot of injuries and things like that. But At the same time, it has made probably more of a difficult year of transition than what we were originally planning on.
Can you speak to the resiliency of the way your athletes, as well as you yourself as a coach, kind of handled the last 5 to 6 years because of the COVID, the whole 9 yards? And I know it's not something that we want to spend a lot of time talking about, but anytime there's some adversity or a little hiccup, I know it was a really disappointing situation going to the national tournament, not being able to get a game. And I know you probably don't want to ever talk about it again, but the reality of it is God puts things in your life that are, it's kind of I gotta need to make a decision here or there. I going to learn from this or not learn from this?
Yeah, well, I think the biggest thing is, anytime you go through adversity, you find out who you are. They talk about character, adversity builds character. I think it more or less reveals character. And I think that's one of the things where I found that we were really fortunate is we had really high character guys. Like, you don't do the things that we've done the last 4 years without those guys. And have guys, in particular, the year after the tournament got canceled and then our season basically got shut down, come back and do what they did and, be able to sustain the level that we sustained, I think says a lot about the players that we had throughout all that. And, I think for me, it kind of validates the kind of person that we're recruiting here. And, like, you always wonder, how you're going to handle things when they go wrong. And I don't think anything could have gone more wrong than what it did. And, you look at it, there's 5 teams in the state of Indiana at any level of college basketball that have made the national tournament the last 4 years. And talking about Purdue, who's one of the best programs in the Big Ten, year in and year out. You're talking about Indiana Wesleyan, who's a perennial national championship contender. You talk about Marion, who's one of the best funded programs in the country. And then Indiana Tech, who's national runner-up. And we're the other one. So we're in that group, and I think a lot of that has to do with the kids that we've had during that time. And I feel incredibly fortunate to have been a part of, their journey, and that, I'm really lucky to have coached them here. And, like I said, it kind of gives us a blueprint for the type of person that we should be looking for here to be successful. And I think that's, like I said, some of that's just pure dumb luck. But, I think that was the best thing to come out of COVID is like realizing, okay, hey, we're doing things the right way. We're bringing in the right type of person here.
What did it reveal to yourself about Scott Cooper?
That I apparently am far more attached to coaching than I thought I was. I always said I could give this up at the drop of a hat, and then when it was taken away there that year that the tournament was, shut down, and then the following year when most of our season got shut down, I really had trouble sitting still. I mean, it really did. I thought, I could always just go do something else, and all of a sudden I find myself trying to get involved in every single thing I can because I don't have practice every day, don't have games to prepare for, don't have the recruiting to do, and so that was difficult for me, and I probably need to make some life adjustments there so that I can have some balance, probably a little bit better away from the court.
Give us a sneak preview of 23-24. We'll get to the Titans aspect, but as you look at the landscape of a very, very competitive Chicagoland Collegiate Athletic Conference, and I've got some of the postseason awards here, and obviously there's some of the same familiar faces, same familiar teams. Some teams had to, for instance, your counterpart here in this county, Coach Mike McBride. I never believed I would see 10, 11, 12 different guys on his roster come in wholesale. I mean, so that we saw a wide variety of different things, but we still saw some of the same teams like Olivet Nazarene, as well as yourself, be right there at the top.
Yeah, I think some of that is just the way we're set up. I think, having the resources we do, being part of Indiana University and being able to recruit the kids that we can recruit, helps us sustain that. But I think the thing you're going to see in our league this year is it's going to be kind of a year of transition. The COVID year made us a little bit better at the top than we've been the last couple of years, and because a lot of people were older, a lot of teams were older. You saw that with St. Xavier. You saw that with Roosevelt, St. Xavier I think is pretty consistent, but Roosevelt's not really been in the mix very much. But, at the same time, us and all of that were able to do that. And, I think obviously the COVID year caught us fully across some transition, but I think, you could have seen them up at the top too had they been able to sustain some, guys using their 5th year and stuff like that. But I think this is going to be the year, and you're seeing it in volleyball right now. You think you saw it in baseball last year where once those guys who stayed for their 5th year, once those players who stay for their 5th year go, you run into a big year of transition at some point, whether that happens in basketball, it seems to be happening a lot right now. We got a lot of new faces in the league. You saw it in baseball, I think, last year. You're seeing it in volleyball right now. Like, at some point, you're going to hit a lull. And I think in our league, this is that year because of that lull.
All right, let's talk about 23-24. Obviously, a great place to start is with a big man in the middle and Dejan Barney, who's back for another go-around. First-team All-League performer a year ago. Let's just talk about how neat it is to have a true post guy. I mean, I think in NAI basketball, as a rule of thumb, I think it's been a guards-oriented thing, and that's just my opinion. I'd love to know yours. Speak to that, but also talk to the importance of having a true big man who is just absolutely a star and a stud down low.
Yeah, well, I think, with him especially, you talk about having great kids, but like you said, it's hard to find quality size at this level. There's only so many 6'8" guys in the world, right? And everybody needs them. And the old cliche, you can teach a guy to play, you can't teach him to be big, is it is very true. So those guys tend to get gobbled up by the higher levels because, again, there are only so many of them in the world. But we've got one in Dejan who I think really fits what modern basketball has become, where guys have to be more versatile and have to be able to do a lot of different things. And he's really adapted well to that here. I think he was just like a perfect fit at the right time for us. And we're lucky to have a guy like that that can play out on the perimeter. He hit 2 threes last night against Indiana Wesleyan in our scrimmage, and
that's scary.
Yeah, and he was, he obviously did a lot of things in the pick and roll that he's always been very good at. He was, he got some offensive rebounds. He just does a lot of different things for us in the offensive end. And again, it gives us a returning All-American, which, how many people have that, in their conference? So, and then to add to that, we've got a guy like Nick Mullen who is 6'10", coming in too. So we're gonna have one of the bigger teams in the NAI right off the bat, which, like we said, how difficult it is to get quality size at our level gives us a chance, every night, because we're going to be able to play bigger, we're going to be able to play smaller because of what those guys can do. But yeah, Dejan's been great. He really fits. He really fit in quickly last year, which is, I think, always difficult to do. Anytime you go to a new situation, you got to find out how you fit into what we do. And he came in, hit the ground running, and you saw when he was out for 6 games last year, we struggled. We struggled, and when he came back, I can't remember what our record was with him and without him, but it was really, really good with him. And had we had him the whole season, I think we're probably winning the regular season. I think we were only like a game or 2 out of it. So, it's a great place to start for us. And like I said, I think we're pretty lucky to have him.
Can he improve on the 16 points and 8.5 rebounds per game? Or are you going to say, hey, listen, I want to give Mullen some opportunities to play. Maybe I'm going to, kind of limit his minutes? Or is that just kind of a, hey, let's kind of wait and see depending upon the opponent's matchups?
Well, it's always a matchup thing for us. And Dejan's a great example of that. There was a stretch last year where in consecutive games he scored 26, and then the next game he scored 38, which was our school record for points in a game. And then the next night, the matchup wasn't his. The next night, I believe it was Miles Tracy that we were going to pretty heavily. So, and that's part of the reason that, I think Dejan fit in so well last year is that we could, he understood that, like, it wasn't going to be an every night thing. When you've got the kind of depth and talent that we've had, it's going to be about who's got the best matchup that night. And the nice thing with both Nick and Dejan is we can play them together. Nick's a guy who was 6'10" in high school, but he was 155 pounds, so getting near the hoop was tough for him. Now he's put on a lot of weight and gotten better since then. But he can really shoot the ball. He can put the ball on the deck like a perimeter player, and then defensively it just gives us a lot of length. So the nice thing, those two guys being who they are, we can play those guys together well, and like I said, it kind of creates some different types of lineups.
You got another guy who's back that certainly we need to mention, and that's Micah Poole. Micah averaged nearly 30 minutes a game, and I tell you what, this guy just brings it every night. About 9 points a game. He's not gonna be one of those guys that's gonna go off 10 consecutive games for 25 or more, unless the things have changed dramatically. But he's just been a steady as she goes kind of guy.
Micah's. I always tell people Micah's our most important player. Like during our conference tournament last year, what was our 4th or 5th leading scorer last season.
Right.
He was the guy we couldn't take out of the game. He was the guy, when we play in Olivet Nazarene, and he's got a matchup with Tyler Schmidt. He's one of the best defensive players in the conference, and he's the guy. We could take Danielle Meredith out, who was an All-American. Mm-hmm. We could take Dejan Barney out, who was an All-American. We could take Miles Tracy, who was, our 10th all-time leading scorer. Kenny Washington, who's our, was an all-conference guy, 1,000-point scorer for us. We couldn't take Micah Poole out of the game. He was that important to us on both ends of the floor, and he's just a really mature kid. I'd take 10 of him. He's just a really mature kid. He doesn't make a lot of mistakes. He knows exactly who he is, and he doesn't try to be something he's not. And he's just a kid that, like I said, you need something from him, he's going to give it to you. And I think defensively, he's our anchor. I think offensively, he's a guy who just fits in well wherever he's needed. And, he's been great. He's a kid just kind of, we needed a wing guy. I'd seen him play in high school. I was like, let's see how it works out. And, since the day he got here, he's been outstanding.
Sam Snodgrass, another senior that his role is definitely going to change because rosters change. And he's going to probably, I'm going to guess, is going to be in a more more of a scorer's mentality. He can certainly, his range is really unlimited. I've seen him warm up and seen him shoot the ball, and I think that we'll see, he was at 6 points a game last year, but I'm thinking you're going to probably be 12, 15, maybe 18 a game. What do you think?
I don't think that's him, but I think
Okay.
I think the best part about Sam is, and I kind of along the same line as Micah is he knows who he is. Like,
Okay.
I think when he got here, he was trying to find a role. We had a really, really good team his freshman year, and he figured out his niche right from the get-go, and he's taken pride in being that guy. So, again, he's another really good 3-and-D type of guy. He's an outstanding cutter. He's got a little post-up game to him. So he finds ways to score that aren't necessarily the traditional ways or the ways that make highlights a whole lot of times. But I mean, he's another guy that's just really important to what we do. And he's grown up so much as a person since he's been here. So to have, again, that kind of guy, we talked about institutional knowledge with Coach Bruce. Sam has been through literally every step of the way. He's been a guy who was the last guy on the bench, his freshman year, to a guy who played, started some games for us last year.
Sure.
He's played different roles all throughout the thing. And he can kind of not only continue to do that and be a better player, and he will be. I'm excited. He's put in a lot of work this summer to be a better player, but also, he's a guy who can, kind of pass down that institutional knowledge to our new guys, and to have a guy like him who's been through all that is huge for us.
Let's go through the rest of the roster. We've talked about seniors. Let's talk about the juniors and some other significant guys who you're expecting big things from.
Yeah, I think the guy you're going to see the biggest leap out of, and he got to start to get some minutes for us towards the end of last year, is Deshaun Burnett. He's a guy who, like Sam, just kind of came in and came into a really good team and kind of found a niche for himself, and it has gotten better and better every year. We're expecting really big things out of him this year, probably in a role off the bench, but he's a guy who can really defend, shoots it, has learned to get downhill a little bit. We talked about Nick Mullen. He's made a big jump. I think he's going to be a big part of what we do. So those guys returning, I think are going to be really big to us, hopefully continuing to do what we've done. But we've got a ton of new guys this year that are going to have to step into big roles. And, what's fun for me, I think, especially, is we haven't had a lot of local guys in the past. And we've got two in particular, and Quintez Columbus and Jalen Petty, that I'm expecting big things out of. Both those guys can do a lot of different things. Quintez, hopefully is going to be one of our next really good guards. We've been really fortunate to have really good point guards since we've been here, and he fits the mold of a lot of those guys, and he's still just learning what he's capable of within what we do, but he's done some really good things in practice, was really good in our scrimmage last night, and expecting big things out of him. And Jalen's just a versatile kid. He's 6'6", he can guard bigger guys, he can guard smaller guys, he can shoot it, he can put it on the deck, he can, play with his back to the basket, you name it, he can fit into. He's like the Swiss Army knife kind of guy, and you have to have one of those. And he's still figuring out where his game fits in, but I think you're going to see him have a big year for us. Played in a good program down there at Kaskaskia College, and like I said, I think once he kind of figures out where he fits in best, he's going to be outstanding. And then the other transfer guy I think you're going to see a lot of is Terry Ford. Terry came. Has played for some really good programs in the past, and kind of fell into our lap due to some strange kind of COVID type of situations. But played at Lewis University last year. It was a really good program. Had some injury issues, and kind of fell into our lap. But he's a guy, just a mature kid who can do a lot of different things with the basketball. Gives us another really good guard in the backcourts that have him and Columbus together. Causes some matchup problems. He's a better shooter than he lets on. We got to get him to shoot it a little bit more. But, he's a guy that can get in the paint and, make plays for others. He's defensively, he likes to get up in people full court, which isn't something we've had for the last couple of years. And, he's going to be, again, just give us some more versatility. And then, I think, we've got some other guys, some younger guys that I think have a chance to step up as the year goes on that we're excited about too. We got a really good freshman class that, they're freshmen and they're going through the things that freshmen happen. But I think we've got 3 guys, maybe 4 guys in that class that have a chance to, give us some spot minutes here and there, and excited about that. And then we've got a guy like Ross Thompson, who's 6'8" and big, strong, athletic kid who has been in our program, had a lot of injury and illness issues, but as he gets better, I think you're going to start to see him, find some minutes for us here and there too.
Let's talk about the non-league schedule. That's always important to kind of give it an idea. When you get away from playing non-league, and I love what our 4 local schools are doing, and I say local meaning IU, South Bend, Holy Cross, Bethel, and Goshen, all 4 of those schools, both 2 teams from the Crossroads, 2 teams from the CCAC. But that little preseason thing that's going on, I think, is a great taste for local NAIA basketball. I love the fact that you all 4 were able to get together and put that thing together. But let's talk about the importance importance of playing some teams that are outside of your league that will kind of stretch your muscles, if you will, because if you're going to get better physically, mentally, and especially from a basketball IQ standpoint, you need to be put into very, very strenuous situations. So let's talk about how that non-league stuff will help you.
Yeah, I think we've got a pretty good schedule this year. I mean, you never know because people get hurt and things
Sure.
like that. Things change. 2 years ago, I thought we had a great schedule and it ended up being kind of soft. But I think we got a good schedule. We got a lot of traditionally strong programs like Cornerstone.
Sure.
Who's won 3 national championships. We've got, Bethel, I think, is going to have a pretty good team to start the year off there. Obviously, we're always going to play them. Shawnee State, who won a national championship a few years ago. St. Francis, who's obviously been to the national championship game, 4 times and won one. So we've got some traditionally strong programs in there that play a lot of different ways, which I think is important for us, especially this year as we're trying to, work in so many new guys. But I'm excited about that because we're going to get some competition. We're going to get some different looks. And we've got some, up-and-comers like Waldorf, I think, is going to be a lot better. Siena Heights has, traditionally just been a nag of a program to play. Like, they're really well coached and play really hard. And, again, going to give us some different looks. And, I'm forgetting somebody in there. Goshen, obviously, is a team we're going to play every year. And, so we're going to get some different looks from them. And I think it's important for us to do that going in when we have so few conference games like we do in our conference to do that so that you can kind of work out the kinks, so to speak, before you get into conference play.
All right, final question. We'll kind of wrap it up here. But when you look at the big question marks that you have, and let's just give you an open-ended question on this one. The Titans are going to have a great year because this is going to happen.
I think it's just going to be the little things, taking care of the ball, offensive rebounding, sprinting back in transition, being good in the gaps defensively and pressuring the ball. The formula doesn't change even though the players do. And, I think for us, we've been really, really good in those areas the last few years, and that's a big part of the reason we're successful. And it's, it sounds simple, but it's always the hardest thing to get guys to do. And once our guys get that, I think we're going to be a really good team.
Scott Cooper, men's basketball coach, interim athletic director here at Indiana University South Bend. Once again, thanks for joining us here from Indiana University South Bend for Men's Basketball Media Day. I'm Paul Condry. Thanks to Tanner Camp for all his great help here today. Once again, thanks for joining us on the Regional Radio Sports Network.